I'm Ashley, and I'm not speaking this evening. But our panelists tonight are Gail Silman, Chris Bennett, Wayne Lewis, and Martin Tomitsch. Firstly, we'll welcome to the stage Wayne Lewis. Wayne is a founder and a director of Rising Sun Pictures. While studying visual arts, he recognized the potential of computers in film and visual effects, and he immersed himself in the craft of 3D computer-generated animation.
Thank you. Owning a visual effects company where we employ a lot of people from diverse backgrounds, doing a lot of diverse acts from all the way from computer coding to pure art. It's been interesting applying that type of thinking to what we do. So it's the kitchen scene from the X-Men Days of Future Past from a couple of years ago. Effectively, there was a purpose-made kitchen which has lots of flyaway parts to allow cameras to move all around the place. In there, you'll have all of these actors trying to stand still in the freezing cold. This was all shot in stereo, so twin cameras shooting at 2K or 2,000 pixel images. So what you'll see here is lots and lots of background images showing you the type of actions that was happening on set that we then took into our system and put all of the digital work over the top, which is what's coming next. So that sequence was about 90 seconds, took 6 months of about 40 people and cost around $2 million. And is an extraordinarily slow, painstaking process.
Wow. It's also a little amazing that a company in Adelaide collaborates with a company in Vancouver or with a movie set in Vancouver to create a film that's probably been seen by hundreds of millions, billions of people. That's an amazing aspect that I hadn't appreciated until tonight. Thank you, Wayne. Now I'll introduce Chris Bennett. Chris is the Vice President of Research and Development and the General Manager of Dolby Australia. Chris Bennett has been the General Manager of Dolby's Australian Tech Lab, which is based here in Sydney, not too far down the road from where I live, actually.
The mandate from Lucas was that he wanted the movie to be, the sound in particular, to be something that had never been done before. And there's a whole lot of ways that happened. But fundamentally, it was the beginning of a really pivotal shift in the way that people looked at the role of sound in film and sound in the experience that we all had inside the cinema. It really was a landmark in not only sound, but also visual effects, actually. For a creative person who's doing sound to tell a story, what they basically have is a huge amount of precision at the front. They can pan sounds with a very high degree of accuracy at the front. But we wanted to go further than that. By adding speakers across the ceiling, we basically create an array of speakers that are individually addressable, and you can take a sound and move it through space. We call it a pan-through array. So every speaker is individually controlled, and a creative director can take any sound they want and place it anywhere in the whole of 3D space in the cinema. And broadly speaking, I subscribe to the theory that big brains attract other brains. And when we were acquired by Dolby back in 2005, we had about 25 people. We now have 120. So I think there's some evidence there that that's true in Australia.
And I've had the good pleasure to visit Dolby Labs a couple of times, and it's usually late. I think it's twice on a Friday afternoon. But everyone loves working there. It's you get to work on some cool stuff, and then some pretty happy people that are making movies reality. Our final speaker is our final presenter is Martin Tomitsch. Martin is an associate professor, and he's the head of the design at the University of Sydney's Faculty of Architecture, Design and Planning. Please join me in welcoming Martin to the stage.
I am associate professor in the Faculty of Architecture, Design and Planning at the University of Sydney. I'm also the program director of a bachelor program called Design Computing. So we teach our students how they can use code to express themselves creatively. And sometimes that leads to art, And there's a whole community online, in the online space, where people are creating these very beautiful images and works that are just produced by code. So the images you can see here are produced through code, which is pretty amazing. So there are algorithms behind that. And if you also Google creative code or creative coding, these are the things that are coming that you would find on the internet. We can see that creativity, as one of the essential skills to have for graduates in 2020, has moved up from place number 10, where it currently stands, to place number 3. So it shows how the role and the relevance of creativity is increasing and increasingly becoming more important in the industry. So these, what you see on the left-hand side, are the graduate skills that industry will be looking for, that graduates will have to be successful in the industry in 2020. But creativity is also important for problem solving. So there's a saying that art tends to ask the questions and design provides answers. And so creativity is really important as a process for as an approach for problem solving.
I'd like to now introduce, welcome our speakers back up to the stage. Come have a seat over here, and introduce our moderator for the evening, Gail Silman. Gail has a strong personal interest in the role of creativity and its link to innovation in the area of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you for inviting me tonight to moderate this. I don't know about you, but I was sitting there thinking, oh, my children would love this. I mean, they're at university, but my son and daughter would have just loved to have seen this tonight, and I couldn't help but think we need these three guys to go out and speak to schools and to universities to actually see what is out there, because I don't think people know. And as I have a background in education policy as well, I was quite interested in seeing how we can show what you do and encourage young people to pursue this. Creativity. How can we teach creativity? How did we lose our creativity from when we were children, when we were told that we had to stop painting the sky green and the grass blue, that we had to turn those colours around? How's that evolved? Why have we lost our creativity? And I like that he highlighted Vivid as well, where we see a convergence of science, technology, engineering, arts and maths, and in particular coding in creativity. I'm sure you've got lots of questions.
What does the panel feel about the fact that a university education can destroy the creativity of the person doing the course?
Well, we are sort of looking at the new way of how we can deliver the education experience at the University of Sydney, and interdisciplinary collaborations are starting to play a much bigger role there, which again is something that is reflected in industry. I imagine you guys could talk to that as well. The importance of interdisciplinary collaborations, and that also sparks creativity and creative thinking, because you're challenged by other people from other disciplines who think maybe in a different way to how you're thinking about a certain situation or problem, and that's hugely important.
2012, I visited a primary school in Adelaide called Alberton Primary, who went from being, it's a school in a difficult area, and went from being a school where they literally had to feed the kids in the morning when they arrived, because so many of them arrived hungry, and turned it inside 3 years and almost killed the principal and the teachers, turned it into what I can only describe as an educational paradise. And the whole driver of it was they literally took that talk, as well as amongst the whole other things, and turned the educational hierarchy on its side and said that every form of education is as important as the other, and that the collaborative forms of arts, working with sciences, working with humanities, was the best way to get creativity out of their students. So, for example, they might be using Minecraft as a way of creating learning outcomes. They'll create the world that they want to visit. And it's interesting to watch how a school that literally takes the boundaries off kids, which is when you've got all the sorts of testing that schools are now subject to, testing for literacy and testing for numeracy, basically it's fear-driven. It's about you must be showing how useful you are. And I understand that schools and universities have to be able to demonstrate value, but at the same time, in doing so, they seem to squash the desire to just the freedom of creativity. And it's interesting how the idea that you start, the theory is you're born creatively limitless, and as you get older, you become creatively limited.
For our student intake, we have, of course, the ATER, the Australian system, but we also have a portfolio entry scheme. So students can submit a portfolio and therefore get extra points for the ATER, up to 5 points. And usually the students who come into a portfolio with a lower ATER are doing extremely well as they come into the program. So that sort of reflects what you're saying, I think, in terms of how we measure creativity. Yes, yeah.
So I think one of the keys is finding ways to bring in schools the boys and the girls together with specific creative tasks they work on together. And so when you back all the way out of that, I think it's about teaching. But I can say one thing for certain in my experience: if you've got half a brain and you're a guy, get a girl on the team as well, because you're almost guaranteed to have a better outcome. And at school level, I've seen this in different forms, but one that immediately comes to mind is I think I participated in a called Australian Business Week, where they basically go into a school. It's a kind of a preset program, but the students form up into little teams, come up with an idea, prototype it, do a pitch, put up like a little build a marketing stand, and go into business over a few days. And what's incredible is to see when you actually do have these diverse teams where they're all listening to each other, which is another important thing, the outcomes are generally much better. The all-male teams, you've got like skateboards and chewing gum, but the mixed teams are much richer, much more amazing ideas. You go, wow, that is incredible. How did you come up with that?
One of my children is a musician. When we talk about what is valued around creativity, in order to get into the Conservatorium of Music, she had to perform. She didn't have to pass a maths or English test, even though she had an extremely high ATAR score. So I think that's really critical, and I think what you just said then around it's about teaching practice as well.
Basically, and I can't believe this cliche is still true, the organisational roles have women and the creative roles have men. And I'm ashamed that our company reflects that, but it's actually reflecting the world the way it is, as opposed to us. It's just fascinating that in 2016 it's still true.
I think we'll wrap up there. Please thank our panel here.
Thank you for joining us. As you can hear from the sound outside, and as you note the blackout curtains on the windows, the whole Vivid Festival is happening just on the other side of this wall. So join us in the back for drink and a canapé, and then take the opportunity to see Vivid, and maybe also to go visit Dolby's electric jellyfish display, which is down at Bridge Street and Phillip Street. So one more time of applause.